splashing in the shallow end. Good morning, and a very warm welcome to this, our second episode of Splashing Around in the Shallow End. My name is Simon Henning, and I'm exploring issues of faith and politics and society and culture and all sorts of things over a series of videos. So you're very welcome to this, our second one. Today our topic is going to be agnosticism. For those of you who are not quite sure what agnosticism is, you're absolutely correct. It's really not knowing. That's what it is. So we'll be looking at the idea of faith and not knowing and things like that. I do apologize. I have had a little bit of surgery on my elbow. So I'm not feeling the greatest. And I've just noticed how white my hair is. And so I'm feeling very, very old and very, very sore. So I do apologize for that. When I was a kid in church, the whole faith debate, if you like, was really found itself lining up on two battlefronts. It was faith on one side, and then it was doubt on the other. And if you had faith, then you were fine. If you had doubt, then you were in problems. And the whole purpose of the church or the youth pastor or whoever it was to get you from doubt back into faith. And even in modern times, that still seems to be a sort of prevalent attitude. I remember talking to a Baptist pastor once, and we were talking about issues about faith and doubt. And he said to me, "Look, Simon, doubt, there's no problem with doubt." And I thought, oh my goodness, what a very progressive, enlightened sort of outlook. He said, "There's no problem with doubt so long as you come back to where you started." And I think that's the problem, certainly I have, in terms of this idea of faith. And as I've gone through life, as I've got a little bit older, I've come to see it not a battle between faith and doubt, but a battle between faith and certainty, or faith and knowledge. Because if I am certain of something, if I know something to be a fact, then I have no need for faith. If I'm certain of certain theological statements, then what use is faith to me? Now, it sounds quite logical, doesn't it? It sounds quite reasonable. We sort of take this position where we don't know things, and we have to run on faith rather than on certainty. And it does sound very noble, and it does sound very logical. But the problem with it is there's a chance that you could be wrong. If I have faith, but not certainty, then there's a chance that my faith might be wrong. If I don't have knowledge, but rather I have faith, then there's a good chance that the things that I believe to be true might not be true. And that's a risky thing, isn't it? That's quite a frightening thing. Now, I know some people who say, look, I have faith, absolutely, and I have faith that I'm not wrong. No, you don't. You have certainty. You have knowledge. You don't have faith. And the thing about agnosticism, about faith in that respect, is that it breeds a certain type of humility. Because there is every possibility that I might be wrong. And if there's a possibility that I might be wrong, how does that affect how I deal with other people? How does that affect how I deal with other Christian denominations, other religions, and people with no religion? And I know that in these sort of interfaith dialogues and things like that, there can be a certain amount there's a certain playbook that's followed. It's where you make your points, you wait until the person has stopped speaking, and then you correct them on what they've got wrong. I do remember hearing somebody say, it was one of these put downs, but it was brilliant. I loved it. And they said, I'd love to agree with everything you're saying right now, but then we'd both be wrong. So having faith, having an agnostic outlook, not being certain or sure, makes me, as I see it, gives me a certain humility. And imagine talking to people with a sense of humility. Not that I'm right and they're wrong, or they're completely off track and I'm pointing in the right direction or anything, but imagine interacting with people on the basis that, well, I might be wrong. You might be right, but you might be wrong. I mean, the opportunities for learning, for understanding, for growing. And I think in terms of faith, this is a very, very important thing. It allows us to contribute to an atmosphere that is welcoming and tolerant and encouraging. All the things that aren't part of sort of church atmosphere these days. So not knowing, or agnosticism, is actually a very central part of my faith. It's what drives me to try and understand things. It gives me a curiosity. It gives me a sense of humility and a perspective on things. But it's not just even about sort of faith issues that agnosticism comes in. A lot of pastoral issues, agnosticism plays its part. You imagine all the big questions that people ask in terms of church or faith or things like that. And they're often questions of why. You know, why did this accident happen? Why is my friend disabled because of this car crash or this accident at work or whatever it is? We ask questions about loss. I mean, why did I lose my job? Why did I lose my family? Why did I lose my position in society? Why did this happen to me? Or we ask questions over illnesses. You know, why is my child sick where other children are outside playing and enjoying the sunshine and living their lives as best they can? And of course, ultimately, we ask the big question, why do people I know die? Why do people who are good and decent and honourable people, why do they find themselves in such a position that they die so young? That their life hasn't been lived out? We ask all those questions. And the best response I find in a pastoral sense to any of those questions is very, very simple. I once heard a story about a ministerial colleague of mine. I didn't know him too well, but I knew of him. He was in a church reasonably close to where I was. And he had 2 children die of childhood leukemia. Not that long after another. I think there was a couple of years between the 2 of them. And I heard tell of a couple of his ministerial colleagues within his sort of parish area come round to offer him support and comfort. And of course, he asked the same questions that you or I would ask in that sort of situations. Why did this happen to me? Why did 2 of my children die of this terrible disease? And of course, the correct answer is, I don't know. I don't know. But instead, one of them leant into him and whispered, maybe, brother, there's some secret sin that you're not confessing that has led to this tragedy. There is a pastoral sense for agnosticism, as well as a spiritual or theological sense. And being agnostic means I have no axe to grind, I have nothing to bring to the table. I'm hopefully, not always, but I'm sure hopefully open towards things like compassion and empathy and love and support. All those things that are missing in church life these days. So agnosticism is not a weak position to take. It's a position that says, I don't know. And so I have to have faith. I have to have trust. I have to open to myself to that thing that we call God. And in doing that, hopefully imbibe a little bit of that sort of Jesus spirit that exists. There are many, many people who are good, decent, honest people who are very sure about their faith. But I can't hold on to that. I find there's no grip on that. It's slippery. It's horrible. I would rather look towards God with a sense of curiosity and unknowing and faith. And maybe that's something that interests you. Maybe it's something that's been playing on your mind. Maybe it's not. Maybe you couldn't care less. I don't know. But look, if this sort of video, this sort of content is something you like, why not consider subscribing or liking these videos, and we'll see about making a few more. And so I wish you well for the rest of your day. I hope you enjoy whatever you're doing. I hope your family is well. I hope your friends are good. I hope that you know all things, including the very thing that we all should know, is that we don't know anything.